Okay, quick video for myself, Harvey Goldman. No cuts, no edits, no filters, and no hair. So for today's video, I want to jump in and do a very quick one about the 4 countries that I've selected as viable options for me to relocate to with my partner in hopefully the next 2.5 years. I'll go into why I've chosen these 4 countries, the reasons that I've selected them. There are some pros and some cons to each, and I don't think any relocation is going to be without that. So it's very calculated, and these are my 4, and there will also be a wild card at the end. So let's get into it. So the first one, and I've chosen this country because I've holidayed there probably 10 times to different locations in my life. It was a favourite for quite a while through my 20s and 30s. And I also speak the language, and that's Portugal. So let's get into it. So the reason really for Portugal, the reasons are mainly the cost of living outside of main cities, like obviously Lisbon, being 20 to 35% cheaper than the UK immediately. So you've got things like groceries, transport, health insurance, healthcare, all of those things, which currently in the UK are absolutely mugging people off, are literally 20 to 35% cheaper in Portugal away from the main city areas. Now, the drawback to being away from a main city area is that you do need more of the language. So there's more of a requirement to speak Portuguese. It's not terribly difficult to learn. I actually found it one of the easiest languages I've tried to learn, and I do speak to different degrees, six-ish different languages. So Portugal offer a digital nomad visa. Now the requirement for this visa is basically 3,040 euros a month. So roughly translated, it's about £2,500 a month that you need. There is also, though, a D7 visa. So the nomad visa is called a D8. The D7 is basically involving passive income or remote work. So this is probably the one that I'm going to go for. And you only need to show proof of 820 euros a month, which is about just under £700-ish. Anybody can do that, that's easy. It's pretty easy for UK citizens to apply despite Brexit. The tax on Portugal income is progressive, so it's around 14.5%, that's what it starts at, and it progressively goes up to 48%. However, there is a non-habitual resident regime called the NHR. And that's a flat 20% tax on certain incomes for 10 years. Now, they are slowly phasing this one out, sadly, but for now it is still accessible. They do have a double tax treaty with the UK, and the opportunities for work are massive. They need and want remote workers. They want people that can speak English as English teachers. They need customer support agents that have English as a second language or a first language. Tech and digital freelancers, me, are in big demand. And to cap it off, they have got an infrastructure which really aids remote work. So they've got co-working hubs, they've got spaces, they've got a great expat community, they've got exceptionally good Wi-Fi. All of these things are bonuses. So to go along with that, some of the main pros are that it's very expat friendly out there, massively so. English is the most widely spoken other language, especially in urban areas and also in some rural, although, as I said, you will need a bit of Portuguese if you go rural, which I would be. Low violent crime rates, especially outside of urban areas like Lisbon. The healthcare is excellent, and that includes public and private, both exceptional. Makes the UK look like a joke. And let's not forget the climate, the coastline, the weather. Forget 260 days of rain a year that we've got here. Portugal gets about 60 or 70. So those are the pros. Some of the cons are that bureaucracy, proof it's live. Bureaucracy is fairly slow. It can be more of a process than an event to get things going and get them completed, which can be a bit frustrating if time isn't on your side. The property market is a bit overheated, but mainly in the main urban areas, places like Lisbon, places like Porto. I won't be going to those. Rural areas, obviously there's the language barrier, and you've got tourist zones. There is pretty bad petty theft, things like pickpockets and stuff like that. But again, if you go in rural, it's less of an issue. So that's number one out of the way. So number two, and this one actually surprised even me. I didn't really think of this as an option, but in researching it, hey, it came up. Georgia. Georgia, of all places. So visa requirements. UK citizens can stay visa-free in Georgia for 1 year, which is mega because you can try before you buy. They've got easy residency extensions. There's no income requirement at all for entry, which is amazing. They've got a program called Remotely from Georgia, which is there to help people that want to go in and be digital nomads and everything else. Me. Taxes. So if you don't register as a tax resident, then basically it's 0% on foreign income. If you do register, it's 1% tax, 1% tax on up to £120,000 a year as a freelancer. So basically it's super tax friendly for digital nomads and people that have businesses that can be run remotely or are based online. So the cost of living, and this is an absolute kick in the nads for the UK, 65 to 75% lower across the board than the UK. The rents in main areas like, I'm going to murder this, Tbilisi or Tbilisi maybe, are £250 to £400 a month, which is mega. And there are incredibly low utility and food costs. So that in itself is an absolute kick in the nads to anything that I've got going on in the UK at the moment. So work opportunities, you've got remote work hubs for freelancers, web developers, content writers, translators, business consultants, marketing, all that kind of jazz that's my bag. They cater for that massively. The government and the industry there is switching very much into digital. So they've got an environment and an infrastructure that absolutely fosters that. There are few local job opportunities out there, so I'm not going to go out there and expect to get a job there. I would have to bring a business to that location, which is absolutely fine. The only opportunities out there are in tech startups, but obviously the language barrier, I don't speak any of the language, so that kind of omits me from that particular circle. So the pros. Super low cost of living. They have got pro-English policies out there. So the street signs in many areas, they are doubled in English, a bit like we do with the Welsh, or the Welsh do with us even. And government documents are also doubled in English. So they are very pro-English. They are very friendly to Westerners, despite the gash that you read about on the news or that you hear about on the internet, whatever it might be. They are friendly to Westerners. There are low taxes, the residency process is super fast, and the cities are safe and walkable. They've got a police presence out there, for Christ's sake, something that we've not had over in the UK for years. Some of the cons. So healthcare isn't amazing. It's probably not far off where the UK is now, but it's not a scratch on Portugal. Healthcare there is improving, but it's definitely not yet UK level. There is obviously a language barrier. Limited English is going to be encountered outside of major cities. So for Georgia, I would look at a major urban location just to ease the kind of pain on myself. There is a very small expat community out there, but it is growing. And the infrastructure in rural areas can be a little bit hit and miss. But like I said, I'm definitely going to go urban if I select Georgia. So let's get into number 3. So number three, and this was on the cards for a while, Mexico. Whee, arriba! Love Mexico, been there once. I mean, it was to Cancun and I was getting smashed every day, but it was beautiful and the time that I had there was very memorable. However, from a residency point of view, a temporary resident visa in Mexico is valid for up to 4 years. So it does require proof of £2,050 a month income, or you need £34,000 in savings, either or. So that's absolutely doable. It is popular with digital nomads in the same way that Bali is for those that have done Thailand or done Oz. Mexico is very much the same. Popular with digital nomads, despite there isn't any official remote visa that they offer. So the taxes, and this is fantastic. If you're not resident, there's no tax on foreign income. Why can't everywhere be like that? If you're resident, you get 183 plus days a year at 1.9 to 35% income tax, and that varies. It's a sliding scale depending on the money that you earn. There is an informal non-residency approach, which is common among digital nomads and remote workers. The cost of living, and this again is another massive kick in the nads to the UK, 40 to 60% cheaper than the UK. And with a language that's relatively easy to learn, basic Spanish, Mexican Spanish, not terribly difficult to get the basics mastered. Rents somewhere like Mexico City, a massive urban area, an absolute hub, £450 to £650 a month for a decent, and I mean with amenities, one bed. So that's on par with what it is, certainly where I am now in Devon, but no amenities, no swimming pool, no gardens tended, no maintenance, none of that. You get all of that included in Mexico City, in many locations. Food, transport, healthcare is fantastic. It's very accessible, and most importantly, it's very affordable. Again, another country that doesn't mug its citizens off. Work opportunities. You've got great opportunities for online English teachers, obviously digital nomads, tech freelancers, content creators, SEO, web marketing, blah, 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 online sales. Local jobs are scarce for foreigners due to certain visa limits, but then I plan to bring my work with me. So it's less of an issue. Maybe for Mrs. Harvey, but we're going to cross that bridge when we come to it. So some of the pros: Mexico, massive expat community, especially with Americans, Canadians and Brits, all English speakers. It's got a warm climate, super rich culture, heritage. It's beautiful. The countryside and the beaches are fantastic. They've got very decent healthcare, almost UK level. But it's much more affordable, and they have got super affordable dental, and they offer progressive services, things that the UK are years behind on, or don't offer at all. You can go to Mexico and you can get human growth hormone, for example, if you've got brittle bones or you've got weak musculature. You can get stem cell therapies there to fight against arthritis or osteoporosis, things like ligament weaknesses. In the UK, £4,000 for a single joint, if you can get it done. Mexico, £10,000, they'll do every joint in your body. So they are progressive when it comes to medical, and in many ways they are far more advanced, far more ahead of the game than even we are in the UK. Some of the other pros there: English is very widely spoken, especially in the expat hubs, Mexico City, Osaka, Playa, all massive. Some cons, obviously it's Mexico, cartels. I don't want to go into that. I don't want to end up getting Epsteined. But some areas have got high crime. A lot of it's cartel related, allegedly. There are language barriers outside of the main tourist zones, but equally the main tourist zones are generally fairly safe. Certainly no less safe than London. You do need to research safe areas carefully. Having said that, you don't want to go rural and be the only English white guy in an area. You probably will end up with trouble. So yeah, best to avoid that. Play it safe. Stick to the main urban hubs. Stick to the tourist zones and everything else. One of the drawbacks with Mexico is that the government bureaucracy can be a little bit complex. And again, it can be more of a process than an event getting things sorted. So now number 4. And this one surprised me again. I wasn't even looking in this direction, but you've got Malaysia. So the visa requirements for Malaysia. You've got a DE Rantau Nomad visa, bit of a mouthful, but it requires proof of around 1,600 English a month. Very easy. And you get a 12-month stay for that with extensions allowed. It's a traditional MM2H visa, which is for long-term expats. They are quite strict on it. They are income heavy on it. And the reason for that is that there's 0 tax on foreign-related income or foreign-sourced income. So if you're doing online UK work, you don't pay tax. Amazing. Local incomes, if you earn money locally or you've got clients locally that pay you, it's taxed progressively up to 30%. So again, it's a sliding scale depending on how much you earn, which makes it perfect for digital nomads and freelancers. The cost of living, again, UK, kicking the nads, 50 to 60% cheaper than the UK. Rents in Kuala Lumpur are $450-ish a month for a modern 1-bed flat with amenities, pool, gardens, maintenance, aircon, all that jazz. Very cheap transport, and I mean super cheap transport. Food is cheap, healthcare is some of the best in the world, and it's not as expensive as the UK. In terms of work, it's great for freelancers, it's great for digital marketers, IT professionals. The local job market is fairly tough for foreigners unless you're highly skilled. And obviously there is a little bit of a language barrier there as well. But if you're bringing your work with you, it's gravy, baby. So the pros, you've got strong digital nomad hubs, Kuala Lumpur, KL, Penang, places like that. No income tax, amazing food, super fast internet, puts the UK to shame, and world-leading healthcare. They have got a large English-speaking population. It's one of the big tech hubs in the world. They've got a welcoming government, something that I'm definitely not used to being resident in the UK. And the government stance towards Brits and expats is massively thumbs up. So some of the cons, local wages are fairly low for in-country jobs. So if you're sourcing work, inside Malaysia, don't expect to be charging people what you charge UK customers because you're not going to get to do that. You'd need to drop your prices about 50-60%. They have got a fairly conservative culture, especially in rural areas where perhaps it's a little bit behind the urban sprawls and the Englishisms that have crept in there over the years. I would certainly go urban, though, in Malaysia. I'd be looking at Kuala Lumpur. Air quality issues in certain seasons, mainly due to industry, manufacturing and stuff like that. But again, you just get yourself a good air filter, wear a face mask, whatever. You're paying no tax, who cares? The language that they speak is Bahasa Malaysian, but English is widely used. I don't speak any Malaysian, but there you go. I do speak relatively good English, and I'm sure I can get away with it. So those are the 4. Now the wild card, and I've got this on another screen, the wild card is Thailand. Now, the reason that Thailand wasn't in the main 4, and a lot of people have recommended Thailand to me. I did go to Thailand when I was in my 20s. Again, I was smashed for most of it. I don't remember much of it. Partying hard and all the rest of it. But Thailand, now, obviously Thailand is much more affordable than Malaysia. So you go to somewhere like Chiang Mai, like Pattaya, you can get residencies for £300 a month, which is dirt cheap. It's massively popular with digital nomads. They are fairly welcoming to English. There is quite an endemic petty theft and crime culture in Thailand, so you do have to be careful where you're going. Food is very cheap out there. The temperature's generally very good. They do get monsoon seasons for a good portion of the year, which kind of like peas on your chips, or rains on your parade, if you like. It's very popular with YouTubers. Obviously, loads of travel vloggers have covered Thailand. It's probably the most travel vlogged destination out there. In comparison to Malaysia, I think that Malaysia offers a much better standard of living for not a lot more than Thailand. And in terms of being more budget conscious, yeah, I think Malaysia, because of what you get for your money, is kind of winning out over Thailand for me. Obviously, Thailand's beautiful. It's something like 600 islands or maybe more. I'll probably just completely hash that make up the kind of archipelago surrounding it. But there you go. The only reason for not including Thailand really in the first four is that Mrs. Harvey isn't struck. I think it bothers her that there is a lot of poverty out there. She doesn't like to see it. It is kind of everywhere. And yeah, I think it's for the same reason she's not keen on traveling to India or certain African countries. It's just one of those. And you know what they say, happy wife, happy life. So there you go. So those are my four. Quite varied selection there. I've not zoned in on any particular one that I prefer over any others. Obviously, Portugal at the moment would win out in terms of language barrier, but that's it. Other than that, it's fairly even across all of them. So I'm going to do some more research. I will be, hello, hello. I will be traveling through all of these countries in the next 12 months, trying them out, even if it's just for a week or two. I'm going to Airbnb something that's comparable to what I would get if I'm a resident out there. So I'm not going to go out there and 5-star it or lux it. I'm going to go out there and try and live with an amount of money that would be the same as I would make in a week or 2 weeks or however long I'm out there. And I'm going to try and live as a resident in the same circumstances, with the same amenities, the same infrastructure, the same pros and cons. And I'm going to try and do it on a fixed income that matches what I would earn in that location. So I feel that's a pretty fair test. But anyway, look, I've waffled enough. That's my video for today. YouTube's going to put another one there. Either watch it or don't. It's up to you. Do please like, follow, subscribe, ring the bell, all that jazz. And there will be another video tomorrow. Goldman, peace out.